Can you tell us though about what motivated you to run for governor and what your critiques of Gavin Newsom are? I mean, we don't have all night, so I guess just his worst, greatest hits.
So, the good news for us in California is that Gavin has termed out, so he can't be governor again. The bad news is for America because he's obviously running for president in
Right.
2028. And when you watch, all of his moves in public, they have been clearly, calling his shot, telegramming his move, which is going to be to run for president. So, why did I decide to run? When Dr. Jill Stein asked me if I would consider running as the vice presidential candidate for the Green Party, I had to make a assessment of what I thought an electoral political intervention was capable of doing in our contemporary circumstances because I've been an activist and an organizer and an educator both in university settings and in community settings like the class that I'm doing for my whole career, for my whole life. Really, I mean, like I was literally doing like a revolutionary third world Marxist Pan Africanist reading group. I was directing one when I was 19. We were reading Walter Rodney and Franz Fanon and Amilcar Cabral. That like this has been my whole life. And so I had to actually interrogate what I thought the utility of electoral politics was. And that's when I first went back to Malcolm's Ballot or the Bullet speech. And I was like, wait, this revolutionary was telling us, he said, we're going to knock on every door in Harlem. And he said, and whatever, he said, we're going to ask, can we see your card? And whoever has not had the responsibility of registering themselves, he said, we might just move you out of town. He said, it's going to be the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet was not just an ultimatum to oppressive white America that black people are going to have freedom, whether we take it through the ballot. If you deny us the ballot, then we're going to take it through revolutionary means. He was also saying it was a moral incumbency for people in the community who seek to resist oppression to use whatever means are necessary in order to organize. And that included electoral politics. That's when I realized that the Panthers also did this. Bobby Seale ran for mayor in Oakland in 1973. Huey P. Newton ran for Congress twice. They understood electoral political moves as part of a broader revolutionary cocktail. Kwame Ture, who we already mentioned, formerly Stokely Carmichael, he said, voting every 4 years is the height of bourgeois hypocrisy, but I would shed my blood for the vote, and I have, because I
Wow.
know the
Yeah.
vote is how I organize my people. Right.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
the idea that all of these revolutionaries had was that political organizing would take place through electoral campaigns, that if you understood elections not to be just ends unto themselves, but as a part of a broader strategy of mutual aid, community care, those hot breakfast programs that the Panthers ran, the medical clinics, if you understood it as something that's meant to go in concert with direct action, with labor action, with strike actions, with boycotts, that you could make fundamental change if you those together. So the short answer to the question is once I was tagged into an electoral political fight at the highest level running for the White House, it became obvious to me that the next step in order to building a genuine opposition party in this country was to build at a local level in my state. And understanding that Gavin was termed out and that the Democrat field was very weak and vulnerable, it has been a great opportunity to put into practice in the most populous and wealthy state in the union, but also the one that has the greatest wealth inequality, these principles of liberation politics. So we've been, building that in the state of California since I launched the campaign in February. The result, I hope, is that we are going to turn the Green Party into an actual revolutionary political party that is capable on delivering, actual anti-capitalism, actual anti-imperialism, environmental sanity, and really giving us the robust opposition to fascism that we need. And I understand the Green Party has a lot of work to do in that regard. So I'm not talking about it. I'm just going to be about it and build the political infrastructure that's necessary in order to have this happen.
I often wonder, and I don't even like saying this out loud because then I get called a lib or a sheepdog, but like, you we were just talking about political prisoners, and someone wrote in the comments like, "I can't believe that Leonard Peltier was released," and that is something where I truly don't, and that's one person obviously, but there are certain things that the Democrats are less evil about, right? And I want to be clear, like that doesn't mean I don't think that they're evil. It doesn't mean that I don't think they are too close to the Republicans, but is it mutually exclusive to kind of acknowledge a difference while also trying to grow an alternative political party?
Right now, The current iteration of the Democrat Party is objectively to the right of Ronald Reagan on everything,
Yeah.
right? And
Immigration,
that's how
abortion.
you get there. Correct. That's how you get there with all of those lesser of two evils arguments. So, to answer the fundamental part of the question, I'm just going to be blunt about this. I actually do not see a fundamental difference between fascism and fascism. For me, white supremacy, imperialism, and capitalism are the things that are responsible for producing the negative outcomes against Black communities, immigrant communities, indigenous communities. And the way that Malcolm put it, for me, is the most instructive. He said, the liberal is a fox. It bares its teeth. You think that it's smiling at you, but you are on the menu. The conservative is a wolf. When it bares its teeth, it's into a vicious snarl that leaves the Black man with no illusion as to where he stands. From Malcolm's standpoint, a hidden enemy is more dangerous to you than an open enemy. An
Sure.
enemy that pretends to be your friend, um, but is actually there to consume you is ultimately more dangerous. And Malcolm was unequivocal about that. He said in '64 that the white liberal is the most dangerous thing in the
Yeah.
Western Hemisphere. So for me, mark my word, Gavin Newsom is every bit as dangerous as Donald Trump. And I'll give you another one. That's a sheep and a fox and wolf metaphor for Malcolm. This one is from me. Okay, a sheep is going to spend its entire life living in fear of a wolf, only to be eaten by the shepherd.
Right.
What do I mean by
Yeah.
that?
Right.
The Democrats are going to be fear mongering always about the danger that's out there in order to keep you close because you are being led to the slaughter. And time again, even measured against the things that they claim to espouse. Like, how did they do in guaranteeing women's reproductive
Yeah.
rights? Do we
Yeah.
still have
Exactly.
those? Or did
Right.
they play games with those and allow those to slip? Do we still have DEI? Do we still have affirmative action? Give me one thing that the Democrats said that they were going to do for our communities that we still have. Like, I have to go back to like the '65 Voting Rights Act before I can find something tangible and concrete that they have actually delivered and held. So for me, we actually just need an alternative that is not part of that corporate power structure, because ultimately, however they might express politically, if you draw a Venn diagram of the donors to the Republican and Democrat parties, you're going to be staring essentially at a single circle. They
Right. Yeah.
almost completely they almost completely overlap. So for me, the key is to develop an actual resistance to the corporate duopoly, and that's what we're running for. I'll lean on Malcolm, a different one from Malcolm on this one. He said the white man will try to appease us with symbolic victories rather than real economic, social, or political
Yes.
justice. It doesn't fundamentally affect the system. So for
Right.
me, the way to kind of A/B test
Right.
the argument that you're making is actually best done in the state of California, where you have had Democrat super majorities for 30 plus years in the state legislature. The governor's mansion has been run by Democrats in that period, with two exceptions. But throughout that period, it's been a state that has been, and really, especially in the last 20 years, completely dominated entirely just by Team Blue. So right now, the if you study the wealth inequality metrics in the United States of America, California has more wealth inequality than any state in the union. And one study recently showed that California has is tied in the nation for the highest poverty rates with the state of Louisiana. That's all on Team Blue's watch. There are 9 families in Silicon Valley, 9 households in Silicon Valley right now that control $683 billion of wealth. And a few miles away, homeless encampments. There were 120,000 average sleeping on the streets per night 5 years ago. That number's up to 187,000 currently, right? And in that time period, Gavin Newsom has spent 25 billion of taxpayer dollars on homelessness alleviation programs that are literally the handouts to developers that I mentioned earlier when Esteban was on the program, or they're handouts to the poverty industrial complex, to the NGOs, where the CEO writes for themselves a $400,000 a year salary for a poverty alleviation program, right? Because why cure the disease when you can get rich treating the symptoms?
Right.
Why get universal health care in the state of California when the insurance companies in 2022 laid $2.7 million down on the California Democrats and they wouldn't even bring single payer to the floor for a vote because they knew it would pass, right?
Right.
So in the end, the AB test for me is California. And California has been a, a more dramatic theater for wealth inequality than any other part of the nation. How are they going to blame Team Red for any of that? So that for me is the fundamental issue, is that yes, there are going to be some symbolic pieces and there are going to be culture war issues that are going to cause people to settle on one side or other of the divide, but those are symbolic fights. The material structures of oppression and exploitation that affect working class people are the same regardless of which party is in power. And one could even make the argument on the basis of California that the wealth inequalities are actually more pronounced under Democrats than they are under Republicans. You could make the argument that the warmongering abroad is more pronounced under Democrats than it is under Republicans because there's an isolationist streak in that America first rhetoric. So for me, it's six of one, half dozen of the other. And I really just feel like we just need an option that is not dependent on the same billionaire class and corporate donor base.